Monsoon storms are tough, but dealing with your insurance company doesn't have to be. If your home was damaged and your insurance company won't cover the full cost, call Galindo Law. We help Nevada homeowners pursue fair compensation. Call Jonathan Wallner of Galindo Law now for a free claim review at 800-251-1533. That's 800-251-1533.
Welcome to this Vegas Revealed Extra. Sean McAllister and Dana Roselli here with you. And you know, on Vegas Revealed, we mainly focus on entertainment, hospitality, dining. But this week, we're talking about an event that started as a multi-day music festival and turned into the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.
Yeah, you may remember Jason Aldean was on stage performing at the Route 91 Harvest Festival when gunfire started. 58 people were killed, and that was on October 1st of 2017.
Longtime Las Vegas journalist Mark Gray was there that night. He has a new book out called The Las Vegas Massacre: Connections. In addition to being a colleague, Mark is also a great friend who we can now introduce as author Mark Gray.
Look at that, huh?
Thank you for being here, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, I know you write about this a lot, and it's probably very therapeutic for you. I've read a bunch of your articles, but this, like Sean said, is the first time you've actually compiled a book, and it's about that day, but also other things. So talk a little bit about the connections part so we can introduce people to the book.
Yeah, it definitely was a deeper dive than I've ever done, certainly, into this evening. Now, the book, like I say, it's called Las Vegas Massacre: Connections, and it's not a Route 91 book per se. That is where the book starts.
Okay.
So it really follows the story and the path of this one particular woman. Her name is Mary Jo Von Tillo. Mary Jo was there with her whole family, or most of her family, I should say, that night, and her husband, Kurt, was shot and killed. He was perhaps the first one fatally shot. There's no way of really knowing that. But he was certainly among the first, if he wasn't the first. And they know that because Jason Aldean was still on stage singing.
Okay.
Hadn't run off the stage yet. No one was reacting yet. So they know he was certainly among the first, if not the first. And so Mary Jo, really didn't know what to do. She's lived at the time just outside of Sacramento. And here she is going back to, her hotel room to see her husband's empty suitcase that he'll never see again. And so she just wasn't quite sure how to go about healing and moving on. And what she did was she started kind of traveling around and meeting different people who have their own type of trauma. And she kind of used this tragedy as a transition point in her life. And a lot of these people that she met did the same thing. They've all had their own form of trauma, some involving shooting, some involving natural disasters, some involving health issues. And so it's a collection of all these people who every chapter is a different person who she's met along the way.
Got it.
And she's the thread who ties all these people together. Because some of these people know each other, there is some overlap, some don't. But she's the person who is the kind of common denominator of all these different people. So that's the connections part, is everyone is connected in some weird way. And, she turned her grief into sort of a passion, and it was meeting these different people. And you talk about therapy, it was very therapeutic for her to meet these people who had gone through their own form of trauma. It's, they call it trauma bonding.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, it's very healing for them too,
correct.
I'm sure. I mean, even just if you just have loss, even not surrounded by, I can only imagine what it was like for her seeing her husband killed. But then to be able to talk to others who've experienced things, I can only imagine it's very healing.
Yeah, and one of the outcomes is that there is a life to live beyond the tragedy.
Correct. Yeah, that's the whole thing. She said Mary Jo didn't want to sit around and just lay in bed all day long for the rest of her life and be sad. Now, you couldn't fault her if she did, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
But she's a very, very strong woman. And she said, I'm not going to let this sort of define the rest of my life. And so she didn't. She went out and I've met many people who, it kind of has defined their life, and they live this day in and day out. Yeah. It's kind of become their personality. That's their prerogative. It's certainly not the way I went about it. And it's definitely not the way Mary Jo went about it. She wanted to, not move on, but move forward. is the best way of saying it. And that's what she's done.
And how did you and Mary Jo become connected?
Yeah, I like the use of words there.
Yeah,
Connected, connections. That's why he's a pro, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, it's an interesting story. Mary Jo and I met at a Los Angeles Angels baseball game in Anaheim, California. The night of the shooting, I was working for Rolling Stone magazine.
Okay.
And my story was supposed to be the 10 best things I saw this weekend at the Route 91 Harvest Festival. And 9 of those things were written. I was waiting for the 10th slot had been earmarked for Jason Aldean because he was a headliner of the final night. So I thought he should have some sort of mention in there. And of course, the story changed dramatically. I went home that night when I finally got home. Took a long time, certainly, because the roads were closed and you guys know all that. But I got home that night and I wrote a first-person story of my personal experience and sent it into Rolling Stone. I had never done that before in my life. I was very much a traditional reporter who you talk to the person, you write the story, and send it in. This was a first-person account. Sent it in, and it went really worldwide. So fast forward 4.5 years later, Rolling Stone says, we want you to do the 5-year anniversary story for us this time around. And there's a gathering every single year, a bunch of survivors. And these are the real people who have lost loved ones and got shot. They go to this particular Angels game every single year. It's always in May. And they said, you go there and talk to these people. Now, these people a lot of them don't like to speak about it. They don't want to talk about getting shot in the face or the arm or whatever, losing their husband or daughter or sister or things like that. But you're one of them. You were there. You can actually relate to these people. You're the secret weapon. So I went out to Anaheim and I tailgated with these people in the California, or I still call them California Angels, the Los Angeles Angels parking lot. And then I went to the game. And I'm chatting with a bunch of them. Now I was sitting right behind this woman who ended up being Mary Jo Vontillo. And she had no interest in speaking to me initially, none whatsoever. Thankfully, baseball is a very long game. And so over the course of 9 innings, I was able to break her down a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
And ended up speaking to her very, very briefly. Probably no more than 3 or 4 minutes. And we used some of her quotes for that Rolling Stone story that ran in 2022. A year later, she calls me and she said, hey, I wanted to talk to you about this idea for a book I have. I want you to write it. Would you be interested? So sure enough, I flew out she lived in Orange County at the time in California. I flew out there and we spent all day together just chatting, getting to know each other. And that was the start of everything. And we didn't know what was going to happen, what was going to come of it. Was this going to be a friendly meeting and nothing more? Was this going to be a book? Was this, nothing more than a news article? We had no idea. And it turned into, it just kind of snowballed a little bit more. And we had different ideas of what we could do for this project. And we kind of settled on, she was really interested in highlighting and focusing on not only her husband, so he's not forgotten, but also the people who helped her along the way. And so that was what we decided to do, was talk about not only her, but the people who's helped her along the way, because they've all had their own stuff happen in their life too. I mean, we had, one person, literally had a death sentence. This guy had stage 4 cancer. And I don't want to ruin what's going on here, but let's just say that because of what happened at Route 91, this man is still living today.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
So it's a lot of, again, it's sort of like this connections thing of, it's, the people, it's not a rehash of what happened at Route 91, but it's all the things, it's not Mary Jo's story of what happened at Route 91, although we do get into that, but it's the people she's met because of Route 91 and the things that have happened because of Route 91. And, and all these things have a little bit of a silver lining. Everything is a little bit of a happy ending, I think, I hope, at least. And that's what we really wanted to focus on. And people have mentioned to me, do you talk about, the shooter? We never mentioned the shooter's name once. That is not by accident. People ask me all the time, did you come to a conclusion on why this happened? I didn't. And I also tell everyone that wasn't my job. My job was not to relitigate this whole thing and try to figure out what was in this sick guy's mind. There have been some books written about Route 91. And to my knowledge, all of them have been written from the standpoint of the shooter or a first responder. And I don't think there's been a single book that talks about the victims. And this book doesn't talk about all the victims, but it does talk about some. And that was our focus, was let's talk about the people affected not the sick man who decided to do this.
Right. And that night you were unharmed.
I
right?
was.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I was emotionally harmed, like all of us.
Harmed.
Yes, but certainly.
But
yeah.
you weren't hit, and you
Correct.
were you able to clearly grasp what was going on that night? Like,
yeah, after a few seconds, certainly. I thought it was fireworks like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear all these people. I knew immediately. I don't think anyone actually knew, honestly. Maybe there's a handful. And also, coming from Mandalay Bay, no one thought that. You know, again, there's people who now, all these years later, I knew the whole time. You didn't know anything.
Right.
But so the first 3 shots happened, and they were really quick in succession. Bang, bang, bang. And this woman who was only about 20, 25 feet from me to my left, now I didn't know her, she got hit. At least I think she did, because this woman started screaming and shrieking really loudly. And I just thought, like, maybe she got hit with a bottle rocket. And also, what kind of jerk brings a bottle rocket or fireworks into a concert? And then there was, let's say, the 3 pops and a pause, 3 more pops and then a pause. I still didn't think anything of it. And that's when the barrage started happening, just the constant boom, 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 boom. And at that point, that's when I realized what was going on. And so I was there with the friends. I was there with my friend was a sponsor of the festival. So they call it a suite. Now, let's use that term loosely. It was a refurbished trucking container made of aluminum.
It was an outdoor festival.
It was basically Reynolds wrap,
Yeah.
pretty much, And so I ran into this area that we had, and I got on the ground, and I was stuck there for a while. And, all my friends that were there with us, they piled in there as well. It had a door. We closed the door. People were trying to break in the door. There were windows also, because they wanted people to be able to watch the concert from the suite if they wanted to. People were breaking out the windows. The windows were getting shot out, and the glass is falling on your back, and things like that. So finally, there was a brief pause in the main shooting, and we said, now we got to go now. And also, we said it's getting closer, because it sounded like it was getting closer. So everyone leaves, and I say everyone except me, because at the time, remember, I was working.
Yeah.
And I had my laptop there. And it was very important to me to get my laptop. So I army crawled to the corner of the suite and got my laptop, put in my backpack, which was also in there. And then I got out. So when I got out, all my friends were all gone. And when I left, that was when I saw a lot of the carnage. When you're walking out, and I left through the east side, ran kind of towards the airport. I didn't go as far as the airport, but I got near there. Also didn't know he was shooting at those tanks, which was right by where I was too.
Yeah.
It's right by where I was. But yes, that was my escape. And say, when you leave there, that was, you kind of understood a little bit of the scope, but not as much still. And it wasn't until I really got home and I was seeing the press conferences with, Joe Lombardo, who was the sheriff at the time. And he was saying, we have 3 dead. Now we have 5 dead. Now we have 8 dead. And the number kept going up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I was writing that Rolling Stone story.
Right.
So it was a weird night. And I'll have people, I'll have family members and friends who will still say certain things to me to this day and say, oh, we chatted that night. And I have no recollection of it.
Yeah.
None. You kind of black out.
You do. I can only imagine. I mean, even with things that aren't even like close to being that traumatic, that just happens. And I'm sure it even took a long time after it even grasped, just being there and actually witnessing it with your own eyes.
Sure.
I mean, I was covering it as a news story, and it was a lot. We were on the air for 24 hours. People in my lobby were showing me videos. I didn't, because things happen in Vegas. And then when I actually saw the video, I was like, wait, this just happened, and people were in shock in my lobby. I live near the Strip. So, you obviously take all that in. I can only imagine.
Yeah. And how unique, I mean, especially when you look at your book compared to some of the other books that are written, to have that first person experience and to be able to incorporate that. Obviously, your first person experience is not the sole focus of the book, but to have that experience to pull from in infusing that into your writing, how important and how unique do you think that is?
Yeah, they tell you when you're a writer, especially book writers, and I'm a brand new one, so I'm no expert, but they tell you to write what you know. And I know this. I was there. I experienced this. Now, you're right. My situation, I talk about my situation in the foreword of the book and in the acknowledgments, but everything else has nothing to do with me in there. I'm just a vessel for Mary Jo Vontillo and some of these other people. But yeah, it was very important for me to have that kind of, I don't want to say expertise, but for lack of a better word, I'll just go with that for now, is that I kind of have an idea of what she went through, certainly. And then some of the other people featured. Now, I don't have their idea. I mean, this one guy featured his sister got killed by a serial killer, the same one that killed Adam Walsh, the son of John Walsh from America's Most Wanted. And I don't know, I don't have that experience, but I do have an experience of knowing what it's like to see this mass carnage and this shower of steel falling down on you and fearing for your life. I have that experience, and that's something that I live with every single day. Now, similar to Mary Jo, I think that I've been able to, not move past, but certainly move forward. And that's the whole idea. I mean, that's kind of what we really wanted to push in this situation, is you can really move on. But you're right. I mean, having that sort of firsthand experience was vital to this book. And I would never have written this book had I not been attending Route 91 that night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Dana mentioned, she was, on the air covering from the news side, all of the events that were unfolding in the aftermath. Similarly, I was out reporting live that next morning as well.
Which is also traumatic for you guys too. It's very traumatic for you guys, because I did not go back down to that site for a while. Yeah. It took me a long time to go back to that area. I did go to Mandalay Bay shortly after, because I felt like I needed that moment to not be scared of this hotel. And I'm not scared of the hotel. I don't blame the hotel. Some people do. I'm not one of those people. But I went down there within the week. But to go to the site, kind of stand out by it, I didn't do that for a very, very long time because it was too traumatic. But you guys dealt with that too. I mean, you guys had to go there, in the immediate aftermath, which is not easy either. I mean, I remember asking, several media companies asked me to go that next day. Can you go down there and help us out? I remember telling one of them specifically, I'm not going anywhere near there. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. I think, and then like you were saying, as things were coming in, it just felt more and more unreal. But you're like, this is real, like the number, the count and all that, like all that developing information. It kept getting worse. But then, I always say the little part that made me feel good is I felt like my job was to get information out, and it was more about, they were collecting water and like doing good things for the community at the time. And it felt like the local news was important on that, for that week, of just getting information out. And I felt like not finally, because I felt like I always had an important job, but it just felt like I was actually doing a service to the community, I guess, Well,
and I was out at the blood bank the next morning, and it makes me tear up thinking about it.
That
the line
stretched.
of people that went down 3 blocks and around the corner, and the piles of supplies that cars would just pull up and drop off. And I mean, I think that's really what it made me realize, that the Las Vegas community is a really special place.
It was the city at its best. No
It was.
question about it. It really was. I remember seeing a meme. It was a day or two after, and it said, your idea of Vegas, and it showed a photo of the Strip, all glitzy and glamorous, and it said, as a local, my idea of the Strip, and it was a photo of the line for people going to the blood bank, and and with people holding just cases of water. It really was a time when, it was the city at its best moment, which came in the shadow of its worst moment.
Yeah, people always ask me, why did you leave, full-time TV in 2019, Monday through Friday? My contract had ended. And I don't know. It just was like after October 1st, I don't know. I almost felt part of me for that moment, and maybe it was all a post-trauma, traumatic thing, but I just felt like my job was done for a little bit. It was just like, I don't know. It was a very, I don't know. It was an important year, poignant year. I do want to talk about, and maybe controversy is the wrong way to put this, but a few things that people talk about that can be, people have different opinions about. One, the number of people that were killed. Two, the term 1 October. And then there was another one that I forgot. But let's talk about the number of people. 58 people killed. We were at Jason Aldean's bar and restaurant opening. We talked to some survivors, and that was kind of a hot topic for them, saying, the number has varied. We go with 58. We go with... So what's the deal with that?
Yeah, so depending on who you speak to, the number is 58 or 60. It's one or the other. And people in the 58 camp, and I'm one of them, are very adamant that it's 58. The 60 camp, I understand why they think that too. I get it. Now, the reason why is because 58 people were killed that night.
Right.
2 more were killed because of that night. They were able to live another, year or 2 longer type of thing. And this is why it's so important for the 58ers, which is kind of what they call themselves, is they said, we never got a chance to say goodbye to our loved one, to our father, to our wife, our daughter, so on and so forth. These other 2, God bless them, they almost wish they had that moment, but they had a year and a half to actually say goodbye and be with them and spend time with them. And so that's why they say, it's 58, not 60. I get it. And I get it if you're those 2 others, I understand why you would want to be a part of that too. I get it, because that you did lose your life because of that festival, but you didn't lose it that day. Your death date wasn't October 1st, 2017. And it was also not 1 October.
Right.
And what is for lack of a better word, the controversy or the distaste for that 1 October phrase?
Yeah, everyone, and I've lived this for, 8 years now, a little over 8 years. All the survivors hate that term. They see it as a marketing term. They, do you ever... when you're looking at the calendar, you say, when is Christmas? You don't say 25 December. Right. You say December 25th.
Right.
And that's the way they see it is like, why did we change this? It's October 1st, 2017, and that's it. None of them that I've ever spoken to call it, 1 October. Well, I lost my sister on 1 October. It's always October 1st. It's always Route 91. Very few people also call it the full name, Route 91 Harvest Festival.
True.
And I think that's just because they don't want to say many more words. But
right.
The Harvest Festival is not controversial, but they just say, Route 91. A lot of people just call it Route. But yeah, nobody calls it 1 October. They saw that as a marketing thing from the city of Las Vegas that didn't do any justice to their loved one.
Right. Like almost giving it an event name.
Yeah. And that's
instead of a date, this happened to us on October 1st, 2017.
Correct. Yeah. That's exactly. Yeah. And many have said something to that nature. It's like, it made it seem like it was, an event or something we should be celebrating. And, listen, we observe the anniversary every single year, and I meet with a lot of survivors every single year on October 1st, but we don't celebrate it.
No.
We celebrate being together. But we don't actually celebrate that day and say, what a great day we're all here. Now, we do think it's a great day we're all there. And one thing that they always say to you when you meet a rooter or a router, depending on if you're from Rochester or not,
we had this whole conversation off podcast terms.
When you meet them, they all say, I'm happy you're here. It's one thing they always say to you, I'm happy you're here.
Interesting.
It was the first, I remember the first time I heard that, I thought it was an odd thing to say, an odd thing to hear, but I totally get it now. And that's what they all tell you. I'm happy you're here.
Well, and that seems like a very silver lining outlook to have after living that situation, and to have, the silver lining story be kind of the theme of the book.
Correct.
Seems very appropriate.
Yeah, that was what we went for. Is we could have really taken this book in a very dark place, and that is not what we wanted. That's not what we intended to do, and I don't think we did. We really wanted it to be a situation of silver linings and this moment of hope and healing. And it says it right on the cover. I think the tagline, of course, it's Las Vegas Massacre Connections. The tagline is finding strength and healing in the deadliest mass shooting in American history. And that's really what it is, And this book has been positioned a lot as a true crime book, which I totally understand. I get that idea. Because it is. There's a lot of true crime in this book, but very rarely can you intertwine true crime and healing and gratitude at the same time. And I think I hope at least that we've kind of made that perfect marriage.
Yeah. Well, and along those lines, I thought of the third thing, and it kind of is along with that when you talk about when you guys are together and there is a connection and it's helped. What about, what are your thoughts on, there's been so much talk about the actual site. I hear a lot of people say this is a tourist town. We don't want reminders on the Las Vegas Strip. This is, other people say, how could you just ignore it? And now they are actually building something on a corner, a memorial, right? What are your thoughts on that as far as the actual site for you and for the people you have talked to in this group?
I see both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
I see it from the Vegas side of, you're right, where this is a tourist town and people don't really want to be reminded. But also, listen, like some of the biggest landmarks and tourist sites in the world happen from
9/11,
these tragedies, 9/11.
yeah.
I mean, that 9/11 museum's incredible. If you haven't been there, it's unbelievable.
Right.
And there's so many of these different sites. So I understand why they say that, but at the same time, this was something that happened to the city, and this wasn't just a local story.
Mm-hmm.
This was a worldwide story. I know because I was getting hit up by a million different international publications. So I get that. Now, what I will say is it is very important for the families of the 58 that there's some sort of permanent structure here. Because right now they only have the Healing Garden. Yeah. And they all love the Healing Garden.
Yeah,
They're
great.
very appreciative of that. That was a very grassroots situation. I think it took, 4 or 5 days to actually build the whole thing.
And that's in downtown Las Vegas.
And that's in downtown Las Vegas, and that's the thing, is like there's no real connection certainly to the shooting site. It's just, it's downtown, but they want something there. And it's very important to them. I know they've gone to Carson City and lobbied the governor. Governor seems to be on board. They're raising money for it right now. I've talked to Mary Jo at length about this, and she's kind of talked about how, I don't feel like there's anything that really remembers this moment in Vegas outside of, she mentioned the Golden Knights. Yeah. The Golden Knights every single year do something. They have the number 58 retired, in the arena. But she says that's really, in her mind, that's the only thing that's a constant reminder. And she thinks that she wants a constant reminder. A lot of these people, all these victims, want a constant reminder of their loved one, and they can go visit the place where they last were with them. She has no problem with Vegas. Her kids do. Her kids don't like the city. The way they see it is Vegas took their father. The way Mary Jo sees it is, I love Vegas. This is the last place I was able to spend time with my husband. So she comes here several times a year.
Interesting.
She was here for October 1. So that's the way she sees it. And she wants a place where she can go be with her husband. And that's why it's important for a lot of these people to go be with their loved one at a certain spot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and the excerpts that we read of the book, I know that her daughter was there as well, right? Mm-hmm. I do have a final question, but anything else, Sean? I feel like you were thinking over there and
well,
listening.
No, I was going to say that
it's always problematic when Sean's thinking.
I know. I felt like you had a question,
and you can tell because it's all over my face. Right. When the wheels start turning.
That's right.
The face is a big tell. No, I just think that it's as you were talking about the plans for the memorial, I was just thinking that your book is also a great way to honor the lives that were lived. Even though you can't tell every single victim's story in the book, it is honoring the lives.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's the hope. That's the hope, is that we really hope it honors a lot of the people who've gone through this turmoil and these terrible situations. And, it really is we want it to be a roadmap of people who have gone through something so traumatic and so terrible, to know, like, it can get okay. It can get better. You can move forward a little bit. And here's a couple of stories that can prove it. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we hope, is just that roadmap. It's the kind of thing that I think a lot of us needed on October 2nd of 2017 was we needed something or someone to tell us it's going to be okay.
Right.
And I don't think we ever got that. Yeah. And I'm hoping that this can be certainly one of those things for, unfortunately, these mass casualty events don't appear to be stopping. And, and that's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of the world we live in right now. So I'm hoping this can be that roadmap, or that, that tool that helps people, move on with and make sure their life can be okay.
Yeah. I do like the wall at Jason Aldean's that he he dedicated.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
I do.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. We've talked about that before. There's a wall that's dedicated in his bar and restaurant on the Las Vegas Strip to Route 91, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not small. It's like just enough, you know? I feel like it really spreads out and I don't know. He's been a big connector, obviously, and come back. I remember when, like I said, when we were at the opening, there were all sorts of people there that were at the festival. They're supporting Jason, saying he's really been something that's kept us together. And now he's opening this place, and it's a place where we can gather, and, you know, share stories, be together.
I don't think it's just Jason either. I think the country music world has really come together and really
Very
holds
true.
Vegas on a little bit of a pedestal because of October 1. I mean, I remember going and seeing, you know, Chris Stapleton about a year or so later, maybe less than a year later, and he said, you know, I remember what happened here. You know, it's my heart's with everybody, and he dedicated a song to it. And this was a year later, and you have all these other artists who, you know, you could forget. Jake Owen was still there. He was on the side watching the stage. You know, some of the opening acts were still all there watching this thing. So it wasn't just a Jason Aldean moment. You know, there were other people who were affected by this, other country artists who still have this connection to Vegas. And, you know, in fact, it's not Jason Aldean's bar, but I'm doing a book signing on October 23rd at Blake Shelton's bar.
Great.
Because I wanted to still keep that country connection to this book because, you know, it's not a Route 91 book, but it does have that's where the story starts. And obviously there's a very tight connection to the country music world because of it.
Yeah. Well, and good point about Jason. I mean, it was a country music festival. So
Right.
everyone was a country music fan.
Correct.
Unless you had a partner that dragged you there and you weren't a country music fan. But tell us about the book, where we can get it, how we can read it, listen to it, whatever.
Sure. Yeah. It comes out, it's out now on October 14th.
Yes.
It came out.
Right.
And you get on Amazon is the best place. It's the easiest place. We live in an Amazon world. And it's available there on paperback, hardcover, ebook, audiobook, you know, a partridge in a pear tree.
Okay.
It's all on there on Amazon. And, you know, like I say, and I'll be, I will have books at the book signing as well.
Okay. And that's October 23rd at Blake Shelton.
At Blake Shelton's
Old Red.
bar.
What time?
5 to 7
5 to 7
p.m., not a.m. That's
right.
Those early morning days.
No.
Not for me.
Those days are in the past.
Those days are over.
And you've been doing a lot of interviews and stuff like that.
But this one's the best.
Yeah. Well, we know. We could go on and on and on and on too. Will you do more book signings if people approach you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be happy to. This book was very much. It became a part of my life for you know, it was a 2-year process from start to finish. That includes pitching the book to publishers and all that kind of thing. The writing itself, I was working full time when this is going on too. So the writing itself took about a year, just a little over a year. Pitching the book took almost another year. So it's been a big part of my life. It's a labor of love. It was a situation where I didn't tell a lot of people I was even doing it because I wanted it to be, I didn't want people asking the progress and the status of it. I just wanted it to be done. And I also like the element of surprise and saying, oh, by the way, I wrote this book. Here it is. It's 244 pages.
Yeah.
You know.
And sometimes you don't want people's input either. Let's be honest. I mean, you don't want you should
talk to this person.
Right.
You should blah, blah, blah.
And some of the people who did know, because again, I was speaking with a lot of survivors and things like that of different mass tragedies. Oh, and you should talk to this person too. And I'm like, this is not, it could be a runaway train if you're doing all that, you know. And I had one woman who said, you know, I can get you all the numbers of almost every Route 91 person who was shot, fatally or not, you know, families and people who were shot in the arm and whatever else. And I said, this is not that book. Now that book could exist,
Yep.
You know, down the road, whether it's me or someone else, certainly. But that's not this book. But you're right. That was the reason I wanted to keep it really quiet for a very long time. I mean, you know, Sean is, you know, spoiler alert, one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think you knew until at least a year into it.
It was well into the process.
I think I might have been done writing by the time I told you.
I think you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, is it healing for you before we go? I mean, is it healing or more, does it bring up, I mean, like how is, because you've written, like you said, articles and now this book, like what has this experience been like for you?
It's different for me because it was It's healing, yes, absolutely. But it's also work at
Yeah.
the same time. And that was kind of how a lot of, I've covered this story for so much for Rolling Stone and People magazine especially. And so I've always looked at it from a different lens than everyone else.
Yeah.
It all helps. There's no question about it. And what after the shooting, I found what helped me the most was speaking to other people who were there, whether they suffered, physical harm or just emotional harm or psychological harm, and we all lost some sort of innocence that day. There's no question about that. And talking to people who also lost their innocence, that helped me. Down the road now, we're 8 years past, it's still heartwarming to hear these stories. And when I talk to these survivors, they're every bit as much as interested in my story as I am theirs. It really is a family. It's a total community, which is really wonderful. And that is more of kind of what I gained by this, more so than healing. Is I really gained a family, or at least a part of a family. They look at me as someone who's with them and really go to the battlefield with them.
Yeah. Well, we highly encourage you to get the book, read it. You can
Share
get
it.
digital copies. Find it on Amazon. The Las Vegas Massacre Connections. Also, remember the book signing with author Mark Gray.
Hey, now.
At Old Red on the Las Vegas Strip, October 23rd at 5 p.m. Get your book there. Get it signed. Meet Mark. Author Mark Gray, thank you for spending time with us.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
We'll see you or talk to you next time. I think you're going to have to become more of a regular guest.
That's your funeral, not mine.
Mark, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Dana, we talk about this all the time. Now more than ever, people are using apps to help them navigate Las Vegas.
Definitely. I can't live without it.
And we have one that covers it all. The best part about it, it is free. Download the VegasNearMe app on the Google Play and in the Apple App Store. But be sure to use the link down in our show notes to download it to your phone now.
Figure out where to park, how much it costs, get full detailed maps of all our hotel casinos, book a restaurant or an Uber. You're also going to find restaurant coupons, sightseeing tour deals, and more. A free app, and it could save you money. We love that. If it's fun to do or see, it's on VegasNearMe.